It's been a nothing kind of day today for the market. It's been individual stocks. The market's not lost too much from the 10,900 to 950 zone, but suffice to say that it's still finding a bit of a problem in crossing it convincingly. Perhaps it will happen at some point, but right now today is not the day. Ashwini Gujral and Mitesh Thakkar, of course, with us for BTST calls. Ashwini, you go first. Thoughts on index and, of course, your individual stock calls.
So index, like I'm saying that once you have a large move and the next day is fairly narrow range, the odds are extremely high that the subsequent day has a large move. So going by that, I don't think there's enough selling pressure at 10,950. Otherwise, this market does not take too long to come off. Having said that, on individual stocks, Yes Bank is a buy with a stop of 204, target of 218. Adani Port is a buy with a stop of 382, target of 400. And India Bulls Housing is a buy with a stop of 826, target of 850.
That's a stock that's having a good day today. All right, those are Ashwini's calls. Mitesh, what would you do last half hour with reverse trades tomorrow?
So I'll choose two buy calls. One is Dr. Reddy's. It had a negative news, but the intraday charts are ending positive. Also, the stock price is closer to the day's high. So BTST on Dr. Reddy's with a stop below 2605 for targets of 2645, and BTST on Infosys, some continuation signals over there. Buy with a stop at 730 for targets of 746.
Okay, fair enough. Those are some BTST calls. So the market looking interesting. ICICI has slipped just a wee bit from the high point of that day. So that's an interesting stock. Strides Pharma for last 2-3 days been making a move. Today also is up a bit. It can be quite volatile though, so that's a bit of a caveat here. Amrish Baliga is still with us. Amrish, PNB finally seeing some green on screen. Any thoughts here?
It's just not PNB. I think it's going to be the PSU banking pack again, which I've been saying repeatedly in the last couple of months that 2019 possibly could be the year for the PSU banks, and I think this is just the beginning of that move. I think, whether we are talking of Bank of Baroda or whether it's Oriental Bank of Commerce, which has moved up from those 70 levels to closer to 100. SBI has gone beyond 300. PNB has just crossed that 83, 84 levels. I think it should be moving more towards that 9800 levels decently soon. So I think it's still time to remain invested in PSU banks, as well as possibly buy slightly more at these levels, because if you're talking about the next 5-6 months, I think we should see a decent move from here. And other than PSU banks, I think one other stock which has moved up quietly in the last couple of weeks has been IDFC Bank, where post that merger, clearly with an experienced CEO like Vaidyanathan, and again, he's a man with a mission to prove something.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I would be more betting on that, because he needs to prove that he can take IDFC to the next level. And again, there the move has just about started.
Okay. I think the move started somewhere on 36, 37 on IDFC Bank, and that's sort of interesting point Amrish is making. In fact, a lot of people thought that Vaidyanathan deserved to be the ICICI Bank CMD
yes, at
that point. And then, of course, he had to move. So much happened between Capital First after that. IDFC Bank had the banking license, but the bank had nothing.
They simply couldn't make anything out of that opportunity.
Couldn't make anything out of that. There's such a big opportunity, and absolutely, the biggest disappointment. IDFC Bank, of course. I think the previous management, perhaps, I think shareholders would have reason to be really aggrieved with that. Capital First, on the other hand, obviously had a lot of business, good business, but lacked a banking license. Now I think both are merging, or both going for them, and that's what you've seen over the last 1 month. The way that stock has really rallied from 36 to 48 now.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's been one stock on the move. The other one, obviously, as we've been pointing out, is Yes Bank. Another 3% counted in. So now that takes the total tally of the month to about 15% on Yes Bank. Since we're on the subject, Amrish, would you still keep riding this, or do you think this is going to be a case of time out, sell on news the moment we have the new man in?
For which one?
For Yes Bank. Yes
I mean, that's what I told. Yeah. In fact, I mean, this is what I told last week also when I was there on the show, that when the new CEO is announced, you will possibly see a sentimental move. I mean, based on that expectation, we have seen this move up from the last couple of days. But then once the person is in place, I think the first thing he would do, like what we have seen in the number of other PSU banks when the new chairman comes in, is that there's a lot of cleanup happening. And exactly that's going to happen in Yes Bank also. So once the name is out, utilize that up move to possibly book out, even if it's at a loss.
Fair enough. Amrish, we'll let you go on that note today. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you.
Before we take a break, just look at some of these mid-caps making a move. Starting with TVS Motor, I think that's moved to the high point of the day. It's a bit of a move happening on that stock in the last few minutes of trade. I mean, as you can see perhaps on the screen, there's Torrent Pharma. That one's suddenly made a move. In fact, Torrent Pharma now trading at the high point. Now, some of these mid-cap stocks have done well, but Torrent really stands out in that list. Petronet LNG is the other one where you have some bit of gains. Again, see the intraday chart on Petronet LNG. That one also making a bit of a move right now.
There's also GSPL. I mean, there is quite a bit of a move on that stock also. 6% up and a big surge on that stock.
Yeah, there are stocks making lows as well. Titan, by the way, just pull out that stock. Titan is at the low point. Tire stocks are at low point. Apollo Tires, MRF. I think there's a couple of others as well moving lowers. Cummins, I think one of yesterday's big gainers, has reversed all of that. That one's down about 4.5%. Exide is also lower. So there's equal amount of stocks making highs and lows of the day today. Today's been that kind of a day. So.
Yeah, I guess there are movers both on the way up, way down. But, when you mentioned Titan reminds me of the Nifty. So Titan gets to 950 and it stalls. The Nifty gets to 10,950 and then the Nifty stalls.
Yeah, and Titan goes to 850 and says buying Nifty as well. I think some stocks do follow that. And like we were discussing in the morning that, there's some things, where the market rewards you for repeating. This pattern, the market has been rewarding you if you bought at lower levels and sold somewhere around that level.
Welcome back. So it's really, really quiet on the indices. We'd have to say the action is all about individual stocks. That's the kind of day that we are in the midst of. On the way down today, some of these metal stocks have been quite weak. So Vedanta, JSW Steel, these are names that are entrenched on the downside. Dilip Bhatt, Joint MD, Prabhudas Leeladhar is joining in on this leg of the show. Dilip, good afternoon and season's greetings to you. I think it's the first time I'm speaking to you in the new year. So Happy New Year to you. Let's start with the big stock that we will all watch out for tomorrow. Reliance Industries. Do you expect new highs anytime in the near future?
Good afternoon and very Happy New Year to you and everyone. Well, I think Reliance is something where we all expect that it is going to scale a newer high. Definitely, probably over the next 6 to 12 months. Certainly, it looks like. I think the results are also expected to be fairly okay with a reasonable growth. But I think we all know that the petrochemical section is doing well. And the telecom section has very conveniently managed to disrupt the entire players. But the real challenge, as what I say always with Reliance Industries, is they have yet to demonstrate that in a consumer-centric facing business, that they can really make good money, they can make money, and now in this case they have to make a good money, because if ROI has to really come on the way they have invested. So I think that still remains a big question mark going forward. How will they make money and how much will they make money? But having said that, yes, Reliance looks pretty good from the current level, very reasonable valuations.
Okay, Dilip, hi, good afternoon. Your thoughts on something like an IndusInd Bank, which has created so much wealth for shareholders over the last 1 decade, but last 1 year has been a large underperformer. Today it's made a bit of a move. Do you reckon 1500 could be it for IndusInd Bank, or you think perhaps it could correct more?
Good afternoon, Anuj. I think IndusInd Bank still remains a very preferred pick for us. Of course, as what you very rightly put it, that last 1 year has been checkered with so many events that have really happened for them, and more conspicuously, I think, is ILFS, which really stands out for them. Of course, they are
takeover of even the ILFS securities. That also is a part of the entire thing. But overall, I think looking at the NIMs, looking at the corporate banking growth as well as the retail growth, I think IndusInd Bank really looks pretty strong. So I think even from the current levels, one can expect on a risk return basis, I think risk appears to be a little downside unless and until there is some negative surprise that really springs up once again on some NPA front. But otherwise, I think one can safely expect about 20% return from the current levels. Maybe on a downside, could be some 3 to 4% down from the current levels.
Okay, that's IndusInd Bank. By the way, interesting move on Z Entertainment that's underway right now. Days low on the stock, despite what was obviously a very, very good quarter for them. There was no disappointment, neither on the subscription side or on the ad revenue side. How would you look at a stock like Z Entertainment, Dilip, now? There is a lot of uncertainty. Of course, we need to know what's happening with promoters and what their intention is, first of all. Would you look at buying these low levels on Z?
Without any doubt, I think Z is something which all of us will be looking to buy. And I think this downward movement, maybe it can still come down by another about 4 to 5%, not impossible. But I think if you really look at the performance, they're very compelling. And even the cash these companies generate is really reasonably well. Of course, there's so many rumors that keep on coming about what's happening to the promoters and their state of affairs. But having said that, keeping that aside, I think at lower levels, we will certainly keep Z as a watch to buy. Maybe we'll wait for some more correction to happen.
Okay, that's interesting. So Dilip is going to be a buyer at these low valuations. Anuj, your thoughts? Because, I mean, even from the management's commentary today, nothing they said was, anti-market. In terms of business, they're talking about decent growth numbers. So how does one look at this stock?
I give a lot of importance to market's message. For example, we were discussing DCB Bank. Now, you can explain that because heading into the earnings, the stock has had a big rally. Z Entertainment never had a rally to begin with. In fact, from highs of 500, first of all, from my point of view, it's very interesting that, a promoter would come out and openly say that, I'm looking to sell my stake.
Without giving anything concrete, any follow-up on the deal.
Exactly. Yeah. What that did was, though, it established, it was a stock which over the last 1 year was falling. It was falling one way from 530 to, I think, 400. It was just a one-way decline. In fact, more than that, I think, as you can see on the screen, from 600 to 400, it was a one-way decline. I think promoter came and announced that, look, my stake is on the block. Half of it, I think, is on the block. And the stock made some kind of floor after that. It's not gone below those levels, and for good reason. And there's value in Z Entertainment. There's absolutely no doubt. And if you're a fundamental investor, you would say that there's a lot of value in Z Entertainment stock. But after that, there were 2 or 3 mini breakouts. Somehow it always stalled at 480 to 500, and this time as well. Look at that move. It's a classical case of people being trapped at higher level. And that's what's happened. So for me, that's interesting. Take the point that it's perhaps a very valuable franchise, but the market's message today is quite interesting for me.
Yeah, we can only hope there'll be some clarity on ownership and what the promoters' sort of ultimate plans are with respect to that stake sale. We're still waiting. Several months have gone. Anyhow, on that note, let's get you some more market opinion, this time from an AMC perspective. Earlier in the day, we caught up with Mahesh Patil of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund to understand his expectations from the earnings season and the sectors that he likes at the moment.
The smaller players or the tier 2 players would find a bit challenging in terms of growth and also some kind of margin pressure over there. So I think that differentiation would clearly be there in the marketplace, and it's what we are seeing in terms of the de-rating of multiples for the NBFC sector. But I think by March end, we expect the liquidity situation should kind of normalize, and that's where one can expect some of these companies to again start to really raise liabilities and then continue with their growth going forward. Post the correction in the prices, both in the 4-wheelers and 2-wheelers, stocks are looking fairly attractive, but I think visibility on earnings, volume growth is still some time away. So I think the stocks could probably languish for some time, but could be a good opportunity to look at them, because I think over a medium term, longer term, I think auto volume numbers should again come back to around 9 to 10% in that range. And that's where I think the stock will start to again outperform. Market is expecting very strong earnings growth in FY20, and this quarter is going to be a bit weak. So to what extent we see downgrade to earnings going forward is something which we monitorable in terms of to expect really to where the markets can scale newer heights and in the medium term.
Anuj, on the index, I mean, not much has moved. I mean, it's all individual stock action really today.
No, it's moved actually. The Bank Nifty future is down 100 points.
The Bank Nifty, yes, on the Bank Nifty
future. And the point I was making, I think the data was the way 27,600 call and 27,700 call were losing premium when the Bank Nifty was 100 point in the green. I think was the first, sort of indication. Look, what the market has done today is it's trapped those who bought in the morning or those who try to chase momentum. It's very simple to just describe this move as that. Having said that, if the market was weak, then at a really important or a really strong resistance, it would have fallen a lot more. It would have, by now it should have fallen 70, 80 points in Nifty, perhaps 200 points in the Bank Nifty. That hasn't happened. This is just a bit of a sideways move which happens after a big trending day. And we are not in a bull market. Every day, you'll have some kind of follow through. This is essentially that. The larger trade would still happen when you buy the dips. Now, what kind of dip? That, of course, you need to decide. But positional trade is making more money, Surabhi, in this market. I think intraday perhaps is not working. Positional trade is making more money.
Okay, well, that's the market for you. By the way, that update, if it is correct from Reuters, we'll get some more clarity on it. That's a huge issue for the startup community, the angel tax problem that they have been facing. Big controversy, and it was expected that the government will kind of come out with some rationalization. Perhaps that's what's happening. But anyhow, some more ideas with Dilip before we get down to the close. Dilip, now what are you doing with IT and specifically this debate between Infosys versus TCS? Where do you stand?
Well, I think IT as a sector still on a risk return basis, we may not get a great return, but I always maintain that IT will provide a good support to your overall portfolio. And as far as Infosys and TCS are concerned, very frankly, both are not preferred top picks, but certainly we will prefer TCS. I think in the short run, maybe because Infosys is going to do some kind of buyback, maybe it will hold on and maybe give some gain. But I think slightly on a medium to longer term, I think it will be TCS which will be outperforming Infosys.
Dilip, your thoughts on a stock like Eicher Motors? Even TVS has bounced back, but Eicher, do you buy it here?
Sure, I think Eicher Motor always remains a stock on your radar as to when you're going to enter. Maybe I would still possibly wait time-wise, maybe for another month or so for it to correct, if at all. But otherwise, Eicher Motors would be a good gradual pick at the lower levels. And I think overall, maybe there is some disappointment in the volume numbers here and some there. And maybe that is what has taken the toll. But the toll has been quite immense on the stock price. So I think at the lower levels, certainly Eicher looks a good bet at the lower levels.
Okay. By the way, just two more IT stocks before we start closing out. KPIT Tech has seen some interesting buying traction today, about 2.5% up as we are closing the day. More or less the day's high, I think, for this stock. So despite performance that was more or less in line, not too many sparks. But anyway, that stock's been seeing buying. And Mindtree will get those numbers after the bell. That stock's down about 2%. They had a rough second quarter. Let's see what that company does in Q3. Stock is actually going home at the day's low. So let's see how that plays out. But Anuj, overall, so I mean, the verdict is that wait yet another day for a breakout?
I think respect the boundaries. That's the verdict. Buy the dips, don't chase momentum. That is the other verdict. And like in the morning, I think there was a bit of a red flag with when you had two ADAG names as the top gainers. But it was not a bad day. Let's put it that way. It's just that it consolidated. The Nifty is still ending in the green. The Bank Nifty is ending in the green. It's not as if the market's fallen. After a big trend day, you can easily give up 1/3 of that gain and still be in an uptrend. That you're ending flat is an indication that perhaps this time the market does want to make a serious push at this 11,000 mark, and perhaps in this round it gets taken out, but it will need to wait for perhaps another 2 or 3 days. Anyway, let's discuss stocks which made a move today. Yes Bank, of course, has been the stock of the week, up 13% this week. 2% of that came in today's trade. Indiabulls Housing was the top gainer, up about 2.7%. Wipro was up 2%. IndusInd Bank up 2%. Infosys was up about 1%. Reliance ahead of numbers, up 0.5%. On the way down, yesterday's rally did turn out to be a one-day wonder for some of these metal names. JSW Steel down 2%. Vedanta down once again. Bajaj Finance down about 1.5%. Airtel and Infratel, looks like that rally has stalled. In fact, from the highs, recent highs, they've slipped quite a bit. Z Entertainment obviously is slipping after their numbers. HUL was down a bit and HDFC was down a bit.
Okay, on the mid-cap side, the index is going home in negative territory. So when at the index level, you'll call it underperformance. So the advanced decline ratio, absolutely even, Stephen, almost stock to stock, 1,030 on the way up and about 1,050 on the way down. Now, if we talk about some of the movers and shakers on the losing end, obviously the stock of the day has to be Jet Airways on that letter that we had exclusively sourced, where Etihad is making certain very, very rigid demands to increase its equity participation. 7.5% gone there. The beneficiaries were its rivals. So SpiceJet and Interglobe, those stocks have managed 4 to 5% gains. Because of expectations of business coming their way. Anyway, more losers today. EIL down about 3%. We've seen weakness in a stock like Escorts down 2.5%. Apollo Tyres has seen some more weakness. Trident, which was mid-cap, which was excited on numbers yesterday. Today there was profit taking coming in, and Mindtree is going to be extremely critical to watch out for because the stock is going in fairly sanguine in the numbers. Days low on that one. On the other hand, if we talk about the buying territory today, a lot of the PSU banks, specifically the PCA banks, they were excited on hopes of more money coming through. So United Bank of India, Bank of Maharashtra, these were some of the names on the upside. Even Allahabad Bank, some of the other names as well were largely in positive territory. Let's get you PNB, some green ticks on some of these major PSU names as well. Coffee Days managed 3%. HEG and Graphite were interesting. Big rally in the morning. Some reports that Japanese graphite electrode major has raised prices, but anyway, that kind of that rally fizzled out. Stocks ended with minor gains towards the end of it. Dhanalakshmi Bank is something that really stood out. The NIIT twins continue to be in news. NIIT is up about 4% on reports that they will be looking to sell stake in NIIT Tech. So these were some of the major gainers on the way up. Some of the real estate stocks are still excited. Brigade Enterprises would be a case in point. But other than that, not too many major movers on the mid-cap screen.
Yes, the market turnover as well on the lower side today. Let's see tomorrow's weekly options expiry. What will be interesting is to see the boundaries. Today was very interesting. Perhaps one of those expiries where the option writers really get active. 27,600 call, for example, by the time it ended had lost 60% of its premium, and the put premiums were also down 50 to 60%. That of course would happen because the index was up, but today was a day of option writing, which made a lot of money, at least on the bank Nifty. Tomorrow's expiry. Let's take final thoughts then. Ashwani, what's your verdict for the day? Ended in green, but just 3 points in the green for the Nifty.
Well, for the moment, you have to assume that you are heading up, at least on the Nifty. Bank Nifty, last 3 weeks have been, doji, indecisive patterns. And even today, although earlier on it looked good, but there wasn't follow through. So Bank Nifty is where the trouble will start once it starts. But for the moment, I think the Nifty last week's indecision has been resolved on the upside. My sense is that maybe Nifty breaks out and Bank Nifty does not, and that gets all the shorts out, and people are long above 11,000. But how long and how far that will sustain, that is an issue, because this 1:1 market breadth at key market levels, it should have been better. Let's see if we are able to cross today's highs with any sort of conviction, then I would think you would get follow through on the upside.
Okay, just to explain that point further from Ashwani, I think Doji is a pattern where the opening and closing is same.
Yes.
And if you see that same pattern is there in the Nifty mid cap and in the Nifty bank, but Nifty 50 is slightly better. That's entirely because of Infosys and Reliance. So that's the reason. So just thought we'll explain
the
that.
way we explained out some of these technical pattern terms, absolutely fascinating. So yes, Doji is the one that we have learned today. Okay, Dilip, just quick thoughts with you as well. I mean, we've asked you about lots of stocks in this market that's absolutely range bound. Any idea that's come to your mind?
Well, nothing really is different, but I think Larsen & Toubro looks pretty good and interesting from medium to long-term point of view. I think that's a stock which can really go places. IDFC is another stock that we like, IDFC Bank, that is Capital after the merger with Capital First. I think that's going to be a very interesting stock because it's just trading at around 1 times the book value. And possibly, I think from here on, we'll see some very sharp improvements in all the parameters. And possibly that will give a reasonably very good return. So I think these two ideas really, for us, stand out at the moment.
Okay, all right, gentlemen. We will wrap it up on that note then. Thanks very much for joining us and taking us through Market Close today.